They told me to say goodbye to my son. He was only 6 years old. The doctors said he wouldn't survive the night. I held him in my arms and prayed until I had no words left. That night, I saw something I will never forget. And the next morning, my son opened his eyes. My name is Maria Roselli. I was born in a small village in southern Italy in 1932. I grew up in a house filled with love, faith, and very little money. My father was a farmer. My mother raised 5 children. We didn't have much, but we had each other. And we had our faith. Every Sunday, we walked to the little church on the hill. Every night, my mother made us pray before bed. I believed in God the way I believed in the sun. It was just there, always, but I never truly understood faith, until the night I almost lost my son. I married young. His name was Giuseppe, a good man, a hard worker. We built a small life together in the same village where I grew up. In 1951, we had our first child, a boy. We named him Antonio, after Giuseppe's father. From the moment I held him, I knew this child was my heart walking outside my body. He had dark curly hair, big brown eyes, a laugh that filled the room. He was everything to me. Everything. Antonio was a healthy child. He ran through the fields. He climbed trees. He chased the chickens. He was full of life. But in the winter of 1957, everything changed. It started with a fever. Just a small fever, I thought. Children get fevers all the time. I gave him soup. I kept him warm. I told him he would be fine. But the fever didn't go away. It got worse. After 3 days, Antonio couldn't get out of bed. His little body was burning. His eyes were glassy. He stopped eating. He stopped talking. I held his hand and felt my heart breaking. Giuseppe rode it to the next town to get the doctor. When the doctor arrived, he examined Antonio for a long time. Too long. When he looked at me, I saw something in his eyes that made my blood run cold. Fear. "Signora Roselli," he said, "your son is very sick." I asked him what was wrong. He said it was an infection. It had spread through his body. In those days, we didn't have the medicines they have now. There was nothing he could do. He told me to prepare myself. He told me Antonio probably wouldn't survive the night. I don't remember what happened next. I think I screamed. I think I fell to the floor. Giuseppe held me, but I couldn't feel his arms. All I could see was my son. My beautiful boy. Lying in that bed. Dying. That night was the longest night of my life. I sat beside Antonio's bed and held his hand. His breathing was shallow. His skin was pale. Every few minutes I checked to make sure he was still alive. Giuseppe sat in the corner, his head in his hands. Neither of us spoke. There were no words. Around midnight, I began to pray. I prayed to God. I prayed to Mary. I prayed to every saint I knew. I begged. I pleaded. I bargained. "Take me instead," I whispered. "Please, take me, not him." But the silence was deafening. No answer came. I don't know when I fell asleep. I didn't mean to. I was holding Antonio's hand, and then suddenly I was somewhere else. I was standing in a church, but not our village church. This church was bigger, older, filled with golden light. I looked around, confused. And then I saw him, a man in a brown robe. He was standing at the altar, his back to me. He turned slowly, and when I saw his face, I felt something I cannot describe. Peace, deep, overwhelming peace. He had a beard, kind eyes, gentle hands, and on those hands I saw wounds. Dark, open wounds. But he didn't seem to be in pain. He smiled at me. Not a big smile, just a small, gentle one. And then he spoke. "Your son will live." That's all he said. 3 words. But the way he said them, it wasn't a hope, it wasn't a wish. It was a fact, like he was telling me the sun would rise. I tried to speak, to ask him who he was, But before I could say anything, I woke up. I opened my eyes. I was still in the chair beside Antonio's bed. The room was dark. The candle had burned out. I looked at my son, and I saw something that made me gasp. His eyes were open. He was looking at me. "Mama," he said, "I'm hungry." I screamed for Giuseppe. He came running, thinking the worst. But when he saw Antonio sitting up in bed, he froze. "How?" he whispered. I didn't know how to answer. I touched Antonio's forehead. The fever was gone. Completely gone. We called the doctor the next morning. He came quickly, expecting to pronounce Antonio dead. Instead, he found a little boy eating bread and laughing. The doctor examined him for almost an hour. He checked everything, twice. When he finished, he sat down heavily in a chair. "I don't understand," he said. "This is not possible." He said the infection was gone. Not better, not improving. Gone, as if it had never been there. He called it a miracle. He said he had no other word for it. I didn't tell anyone about the dream. Not even Giuseppe. I didn't know how to explain it. A man in a church? Wounds on his hands? It sounded like madness. So I kept it inside. But I never forgot his face, those kind eyes, that gentle voice. "Your son will live." 10 years passed. Antonio grew up healthy and strong. He became a teacher, he got married, he had children of his own. I watched him live the life that should have ended in 1957. And every day I thanked God, but I still didn't know who the man in my dream was. In 1968, my sister came to visit. She brought a newspaper from Rome. On the front page was a photograph. A priest had died, a famous priest. They called him Padre Pio. She showed me the picture, and the moment I saw his face, I dropped the newspaper. My hands were shaking. It was him, the man from my dream. The same face, the same beard, the same gentle eyes, the same wounds on his hands. I sat down and cried. For the first time in 10 years I cried. Not from sadness, from understanding. I spent the next few weeks learning everything I could about Padre Pio. He was a priest from San Giovanni Rotondo. He had the stigmata, the wounds of Christ on his hands and feet. He was known for miracles. Healing the sick, reading souls, being in 2 places at once. People came from all over the world to see him. But here is what made me tremble. He never left his monastery. He couldn't travel because of his wounds. So how did he appear in my dream? How did he know about my son? How did he know Antonio would live? I wrote a letter to the monastery. I told them my story. A few weeks later, I received a reply. The letter was from an old nun who had known Padre Pio personally. She wrote something that changed my life. She said Padre Pio had spoken of a sick child in a village, a child who was dying. He had prayed for that child one night in December 1957. He had told the other priests, "The boy will be fine. I visited his mother." Visited. He said he visited me, but he was in his monastery hundreds of kilometers away. I traveled to San Giovanni Rotondo in 1970. Padre Pio had died 2 years earlier, but I needed to go. I needed to see the place where he lived, the place where he prayed for my son. When I entered the church, I fell to my knees. It was the same church from my dream, the same golden light, the same altar, everything. I had never been there before, but I recognized every corner. I stayed in that town for a week. I met other people with stories like mine. Mothers who had lost hope, fathers who had been told their children would die. And somehow Padre Pio had reached them. In dreams, in visions, in moments when all seemed lost. He had given them hope, and in many cases their children survived. I am an old woman now. Antonio is in his 70s. He has grandchildren of his own, a whole family that exists because of one night in 1957. One night when a priest appeared in a dream and told me my son would live. People ask me if it was real. They ask me if I'm sure it wasn't just a dream. I understand their doubts. I would doubt it too if I hadn't lived it. But I know what I experienced. I know what I felt when he looked at me. And I know that my son should have died that night. He didn't. Because someone was watching over us. Someone who shouldn't have been able to reach us. But did. I don't tell people what to believe. Faith is personal. But I can tell you what I know. Miracles are real. Not because I read about them in books. Because I lived one. My son Antonio still doesn't know the full story. I never told him about the dream. I never told him that a priest appeared to me the night he was dying. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. Some things are hard to put into words. But he knows he's alive for a reason. And I know who that reason is. Every night, before I sleep, I pray. I thank God for my son's life. And I thank Padre Pio, wherever he is, for visiting a desperate mother in a small Italian village, for saying 3 words that changed everything. Your son will live. He was right. My son lived, and so did my faith.